everyone. Welcome. Hey. We got a car alarm in the background. It's very exciting here. It's great to see you guys. We'll get started in about 1 minute as soon as it hits noon Pacific. Awesome. Alrighty. So what's everybody working on this weekend? What are you baking? Let me know. Let us know in the comments below. All right. We are going to start with demo today. Hi, pistol packing mama. So it's snowy up there. How's the weather where everybody is? Christmas tree cookbook guy 1981 is decorating the tree. Any cookies and hot cocoa to go with that tree decorating? Let us know. Patty's in the audience. It's wonderful to see you guys. I got a second. I can wave. I can wave. Hey! One more. All right. There we go. Welcome everyone to today's episode of the Dough Doctor. We are deep in our DIY Gifts from Your Kitchen series, and for this week I'm going to start with demo, and then I'm going to go into the questions that came in last week. As usual, if you have questions from any of your baking adventures from this week or from whenever, pop them in the comments below, because bakers, if you had that question, I can guarantee a fellow baker has had the same question. So do not be shy at all. All right. So for this week, we are making sea salt caramels. And actually, they can be any kind of caramel you want. It's just salted caramels are so popular. I just put that in the title to get everybody's attention, and more about how to garnish them toward the end of I almost said class, toward the end of the episode. Now, first thing, this caramel recipe is so easy, it's crazy, but it does take a while, which is why we're starting it now. This recipe has milk and heavy cream, and so everything goes into the pot except the vanilla extract that we're going to add at the end. It's genius because, and it's an old family recipe, I'm not going to take credit for this genius. It has brown sugar in it. It has granulated sugar in it. It has butter in it. Everything's better with butter. And then, oh look, another butter wrapper to save. I have my collection in the freezer. Great for greasing pans. And the salt. Now we're going to put this on the stove, and I'm going to turn it up so until it begins to boil. Now, okay, and I have it on medium-high heat to start. You can see it right behind me, right here, beginning to cook. All right, ooh, I got a couple folks I can wave at. It's great to see you guys. And then I'm going to stop with the waving and go on with the show. Oh, look, I almost forgot the corn syrup. Now remember, in candy making, corn syrup is the doctor. It helps our confections stay fresh and not crystallize. And these sea salt caramels made with love, with your own little hands in your kitchen, will last 2 weeks. Well, they'll last beyond 2 weeks, but they're optimum they should be eaten within 2 weeks for optimum enjoyment. All right, I feel a question. Hey, chef. I feel a question coming on, bakers. Are any of you wondering why since I'm throwing everything into this pot, why am I leaving the vanilla out until the end? Is that a question you might have had when I said everything but the vanilla? Put it in the comments below if that's a question, because I'm going to answer that question anyway, but I want to see if you guys picked up on it. I bet you did. All right, so now, again, just bringing that up to a boil, and once we get it to the boil, then we do need candy thermometer. And I have two. So this is kind of an old grandma style candy thermometer. Works very well if your pan has straight sides. And then this is a digital candy thermometer, which also works very well. This one you can set to the temperature, and our eventual caramel temperature is going to be 244 degrees. All right, so that is, in candy making terms, that's firm ball. And so that's what we're going for, 244. So you have to have a good candy thermometer. It can look like this, or it can look like this. They're better if they're long stemmed because sugar is hot when we cook it. Oh, and another point, when you do make your caramels, clear the kitchen so you can be focused and not distracted. Okay, oops. And here I am back at you. It is totally fine to stir this caramel a little bit in the beginning. Now, a lot of times when we make caramel, especially when we're just caramelizing sugar, water, and maybe a little corn syrup or glucose syrup, again, the doctor is in to prevent that crystallization, we don't want to stir it. But when we're working on a mixture like this, that's got fat, 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 more fat, butter, cream, there's even fat in the milk in there, the sugar molecules are coated and protected. So stirring is not going to cause the sugar to crystallize. But you definitely want a heat-proof spatula. So as soon as everything's melty, the sugar's dissolved, and it's a lovely light golden brown color, you can stop stirring, and we're going to cook it to 244 degrees. This could take 15 to 20 minutes. And you want a nice tall pot because the caramel, it does, as it heats up, it bubbles up and it can bubble over, and we don't want that. That would be a mess. So it's got to be a nice deep saucepan. Okay? So I've actually turned this down to low, and I'm going to stick my candy thermometer in there and come back to you guys. One last thing before I get into questions, I'm going to talk about the pan. Now for this recipe, I'm using an 8 by 8 inch pan, and by the way, I will make sure the recipe drops on the website by tomorrow so you can get going on your sea salt caramels. And I have lined the pan with strips of parchment paper that fit perfectly. And that's the key thing, bakers. We have to be precise. This is where your inner perfectionist can come out and go crazy. We want the paper to fit perfectly, and we're just going to lift out these caramels when we go to cut them after they set up. They take about 4 hours to set up, but I recommend letting them sit at room temperature overnight, and then they'll be nice and firm the next day. All right. So, okay, what size pot? You know what? Always have a ruler handy. So this is 8 inches wide by 4.5 inches tall. That's what I'm using to make the caramels. All right? Okay, we're good. We're at about 222. We're going to 244, so I have a little bit of time. So I want to answer that question about the vanilla. The vanilla goes in last because most extracts, like vanilla, are alcohol-based. And when we heat an extract too early, like if I let the vanilla just boil away in the pot of caramel, the alcohol that the vanilla flavor is suspended in would dissipate. It would evaporate, and we would not have that lovely background of the vanilla flavor. So that's why. And that also goes ditto if you're using alcohol-free vanillas. That chemical has the same reaction. It sort of floats into the ether when it's heated, and when it's heated for a while, and it takes the flavor with it. Now, in the baking process, it's not as dramatic as when we're cooking on the stove and we're getting to these pretty intense heats. So you don't have to worry about it. It's when we add the vanilla, and we've talked about that in class. If you're using creaming method, add the vanilla with the butter and the sugar, and then the fat molecules will really take care of the vanilla, hold them in place, and then the flavor is perfumed throughout your product. But whenever we're working, again, just to reiterate, we're really working with intense direct heat. That vanilla goes in at the end. And that would be the same if you're using liqueurs or you're using other extracts as well. And just a caveat, because we're getting into very festive cooking time, if you are working with liqueurs and maybe even making a crepe Suzette or flambeing, then you want to make sure that your pan is not on direct heat when you add those ingredients. All right, I digress. Always the worrywart, that's me. All right, you guys, let's see what's going on. And then, oh, great question, Dory. Can you put the caramel in silicone molds? I have not tried, but I don't see why you couldn't. I might I think you could. That would be a great thing to try, maybe with part of the batch. And yeah, and if you try it, let us know. Okay. All right. So now let me grab my notebook with the questions. Great questions, you guys. Oh, by the way, I forgot my hat. As it is the holiday season, I'm going to wear my Santa's elf hat because I am in the charge of Santa's baking department. You did not know that, bakers, but I am, and it's just another one of my side hustles. And all right, so let's go. So the first question pertains to vanilla, and this actually came from overseas. One of our bakers asked, vanilla, if the recipe calls for either scraped vanilla seeds from an actual vanilla pod or vanilla bean paste, can I substitute vanilla extract? And the answer is absolutely. It's usually a 1-for-1 substitution. So if it says, you know, a teaspoon of vanilla bean paste, it's a teaspoon of extract. Now, if you're scraping seeds from a nice plump vanilla pod, a half vanilla pod usually yields a half teaspoon of seeds. That's half the pod, half teaspoon. That's easy to remember. So I would double the vanilla extract compared to whatever they ask for seeds. And usually it's super romantic. It'll be like, scrape half a vanilla bean pod into the creme anglaise. You know, I'm channeling Julia here. you know, but yes, double for vanilla seeds. All right, great. Next question was how to determine when biscotti, when are they done? And when are they done on that first bake, not the second bake, because biscotti is Italian for twice cooked, because we shape the cookie dough in a log, we bake the log, and then we let them cool for about 10 minutes, we slice, and we give them the lightest toast, just the lightest toasting. So that's how they get to be twice cooked, because biscotti is a cookie that is designed to be dunked in coffee, espresso, hot chocolate, tea, or wine. So let me just check here. No, we're not there yet on that caramel. All right. So how do you determine when your biscotti is done? A cake tester inserted into the center should come out nice and clean. You press the top and there should be just the barest amount of spring back. We don't want them to be squidgy or, we don't want any raw dough in our biscotti, not even a streak, none of that. You don't want to underbake them, that's for sure. So a little bit of spring back, kind of like a cake. A skewer inserted into the center comes out clean. You could, if you really have your doubts, you're like, I don't think a skewer is going to cut it, use a paring knife right in the center. And, biscotti are super sturdy. Another 5 minutes of baking is not going to hurt them. Just make sure not to over brown the bottom crust. You might want to double pan at that point. Just give them a few more minutes. You would be surprised in a professional bake shop situation how much longer we actually bake product than we do at home. I mean, then we're sort of conditioned to think at home because we're so afraid of burning things, and there's nobody there that, that can, well, I'm here, but to like say a few more minutes, I'll put it in for a few more minutes. So bakers, just know that a few more minutes just to really solidify that product is rarely a bad idea. Okay? All right. Next question. I thought this was a great one, and you might like it too. Can I substitute mascarpone cheese for cream cheese, or mascarpone? I'm never quite sure if it's mascarpone or mascarpone. We'll have to ask Chef Daniel next time he's in the audience. So, yes and no. So check this out. Mascarpone cheese has twice the amount of fat of cream cheese. That's crazy. So the problem is, all that fat, if you do a direct substitution, depending on what you're making, your product will be softer because fat is a tenderizer in baked goods. So be careful of that. Also, any aggressive mixing will break that cheese in a New York second because it's just got that much fat. So be careful. A gently mixed pound cake, a cream cheese pound cake, a gently mixed cream cheesecake, you're going to probably be okay. But I would be very careful making a substitution, let's say for a carrot cake, and you've got your tried and true cream cheese frosting. Stick with that cream cheese, because if you feel posh and you switch to mascarpone, it might break on you and there's no getting it back. All right, let's see where we are here. I'm going to stick thermometer number 2 in because we are live. You only need 1 thermometer. I need 2, as I said, because we are live. All right. So those were my questions for this week. We covered extract versus paste and scraped seeds. We covered biscotti, which make a great gift from your kitchen, by the way. I do have a wonderful recipe on the website under recipe and blog posts. You can search for biscotti. We talked about cream cheese and mascarpone. So I guess that's it. Before I get into the second part of demo, because I do have magic of TV, yeah, we're good. All right, everyone. So now, cooking away. So the caramel's at 230 degrees. Now, thermometers are great, and I really hope you have a good one. And I hope if you don't, you put one on your holiday gift list, because they really are game changers. And by the way, just to reiterate on that pot, tall sides and no lip if possible, because then any candy thermometer you buy will clip on the side, and that's the most efficient way to deal with candy thermometers. Now, what if you don't have one? Oh, pistol packing mama, I see that question. I'll take that in a second. What if you just don't have a thermometer and you're like, I want to make these caramels, Chef Colette. What else can I do? Well, you can take a bowl and make a little container of ice water. All right? We're going old school. Okay? So I have a little pink bowl if you like, and then you need a metal spoon. It has to be a heat-proof spoon, all right? And we're going to do the old softball test, but it's not softball, it's firm ball. So you can have this on deck, and you can, I would sort of time it, and I would periodically, we're going to test when we get closer. You're going to drop a little bit of the caramel into the cold water, let it sit for a couple seconds, and see if it's pinching into the consistency that you want for your caramel. The less we cook the caramel, the softer it is. The longer we cook the caramel, the firmer it is. So old school, bowl of water. Okay? All right, we're at 235. So here's my finished caramel, and I want to take Pistol Packing Mama's question about cake goop. And cake goop I posted a couple weeks ago. Oh my God, I forgot what post it's on, but I will double check. And this is our environmentally friendly pan release, so we don't have to use evil pan spray. Yes, cake goop can be used on bread. You can use it on anything, any pans, but you don't want to use it if the product does not have flour in it, like these caramels. You wouldn't use it for that. You can use it on any pan where you're going to pour in a batter that has flour as part of the ingredients. Okay. All right. For our caramels. And this is what they look like when they're done. For our caramels, you want to be set up with wax paper rectangles. And you'd be surprised that they're bigger than you want to cut them, and they are going to be bigger than you think. Like, I started with these little ones, and they were too small. So what we actually need, we need to cut, so you're going to just get regular wax paper from the supermarket, And remember, wax paper is not a substitute for parchment paper, but it is so useful. It's really great for covering things up in the microwave, and so many other things. But, so let me tell you what this is going to measure real quick. I had it, but I didn't write it down, which was my bad. So we are looking at about 5.5 inches wide and about 5.5 inches wide by 3.5 inches tall. And I'm cutting my caramels into 1 by 1 inch squares. We're almost there. We're at 240, so I'm going to pause. And once you pour your caramels, so look what I've got. They're like the size of index cards. You know what? We could almost say 3 by 5. We almost could. All right. So you're going to have all of those ready. And then we're just going to test. I have my bowl of cold water. Oh, there's the alarm. So I'm just going to let it beep. And I'm going to show you what this looks like. Whoops. Well, that is annoying. We'll stop that. I'm going to actually let it go a little bit longer because it's quite soft. See that? There we go. Ooh, Tati, great question. I'll cover that. So whatever is this ball, that's going to be the texture of your caramel. And it can just be a few degrees more and your caramel will be firmer. All right? So that's how to test. Super old school. Now I'm going to come back. I've got to switch gears. And here's my pan prepared. You can grease this with, if you're saving butter wrappers, and I hope you are, you can grease these sheets of parchment paper with your butter wrappers. And have you guys discovered that there's just so much, there's plenty of grease left on those butter wrappers? Tati has a great question. How do I infuse flavor into my caramel? You would infuse it in the cream and the milk by, whoops, we're getting there. You could heat up, let's say for example, you wanted an orange scented caramel. You would take you would take the peel, you would take a peeler and peel off the skin of an orange, but not the white pith, just the outer bright orange skin, and you would put that in your milk and your cream. You would heat it up to a low boil, and then you would turn off the heat and you would let it sit in there until it was completely cool. You could do the same thing. You could get very exotic. You could use spices like cinnamon sticks. You could use whole bean coffee to infuse flavor. You can also sub out for the milk if you wanted more of a cafe type, a coffee type caramel. You could remove the milk and add brewed coffee instead. So there are either by infusing flavor into the dairy or taking that milk out. You need the cream, but removing the milk and adding another liquid like orange juice or coffee or even Earl Grey tea, a nice strong tea, and that's how you would infuse flavor into your caramels. You could do star anise, you could do lavender, you could do lemongrass, like, yes, so many options. All right, everyone. So this is very hot sugar, and we want to, I'm gonna go ahead and pour, and you'll notice that it's kind of evaporated just a little bit. and that's because we cooked out some of the water. So I'm pouring it in my prepared pan, and because I'm live and I'm talking, I forgot the vanilla. Oh my God. Good thing I don't take myself so seriously. That could happen to you. So this is what we do. If that happens, we're just going to stir it in. And it's going to burble up. Just get it equally distributed throughout. Okay? See, you know what? When things go right, we learn nothing. But when they don't go right, we learn a lot. So I love it. All right. Now what we're going to do is just set this off to the side, and I will cut these tomorrow morning. Just let them sit. Don't put them in the fridge. Don't do anything. I mean, unless you have if you have to push them, it can go in the fridge for 1 hour so they set up. But then you want to pull them out and let them sit at room temperature. So, okay, so that was okay. You're so welcome, Tati, on that. And again, bakers, if you have a question, your fellow bakers have the same question. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut these, and at least cut one more and wrap it for you before we end the show. And this is how we make our our sea salt caramels. Now, if you don't want to use sea salt, and I'm using Malden salt right here, you could use pink Hawaiian salt. You could use all those lovely salts that are available. But you could also get really creative, and you could use crushed up pretzels if you wanted the sweet, you wanted the sweet and salty combination. You could also use cocoa nibs would be fun. And you can also, now it's warm in my kitchen, these spread on me just a little bit, but that doesn't matter. I will make this work. And I just want to show you how to wrap one. What did I do with my, oh, here they are. I knew I had them close. So I sprinkled these with a little bit of the sea salt, and you want to place the caramel at the bottom of, toward you, because you're going to roll, and you're going to kind of mold. That's why they don't have to be perfect squares, because when you wrap them, they kind of get molded, and then we're gonna twist the edges like this, and we make it's like a Christmas cracker. It's really, really fun. And then you can pop these in a gift bag, a little beautiful treat bag, tie it up with a ribbon, and people love them. Just really, really delicious. It's really hard to eat just one of these. So just an opportunity for you to be creative, make some gifts from your kitchen, which your friends and family will appreciate so much. And for next week, I'm torn between, for our week 3 gifts from your kitchen, should we make rugula, because Hanukkah's going to start on the 18th, or would you like a really badass recipe for granola? You guys let me know. You can DM me or message me, or when I post the archive, just get in there and say, rugula chef, because I have a great recipe, and we have to laminate when we make rugula. So if you've been missing lamination, that would be a good one to do. The granola is badass. It is such a good granola. Maybe I should do that week 4. Anyway, you guys let me know. I love it when you write the show, because then everything just falls into place. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode of The Dough Doctor. We will be right back here next week at noon Pacific. Message me your questions. Let me know what you're baking. Tag me in your posts so I can brag about your beautiful bakes. And I will see you next week. Take care, everyone.